I used to do late-night deliveries around northern Wisconsin for extra money after my warehouse shift. Most nights were simple. Drop off food, snap the photo, leave. But after what happened in February of 2024, I deleted every delivery app on my phone. My name's Hayes, and this happened outside a small town called Mercer. It was freezing that night, around 12:40 a.m. Snow had been falling for hours, and most roads were empty except for the occasional truck. I was already planning to end my shift when a final order popped up. One item, no contact delivery, large pepperoni pizza, and 2 bottles of Coke. The address was strange because it wasn't in town. It was about 20 minutes deeper into the woods near an old campground area. The payout was high though, almost $40 with tip included. I accepted it. The restaurant worker looked annoyed when I picked up the order. "You actually taking that one?" he asked. "Yeah." "Why?" He stared at the receipt for a second before shaking his head. "People keep placing orders there, then canceling halfway. Third time tonight." I laughed a little. Probably kids messing around. Maybe, but he didn't look convinced. The drive there got worse the farther I went. No streetlights, barely any houses, just thick woods and long stretches of icy road. My GPS kept cutting in and out too. About 10 minutes and I noticed something weird. A black pickup truck had been behind me for a while. At first I ignored it, but every time I slowed down it slowed too. While I turned onto a narrow side road it followed. That's when my stomach started tightening. The address led to a dead-end gravel road buried under snow. There was only one house at the very end. It looked abandoned. No lights, no cars, no footprints. The pickup behind me suddenly stopped about 50 yards away with its headlights still on. I remember sitting there gripping the steering wheel staring between the dark house and that truck behind me. The app told me to leave the order at the front door. I should have driven away. Instead, I grabbed the pizza and stepped outside. The cold hit hard immediately. Everything was dead silent except for wind moving through trees. As I walked closer, I noticed the front door was slightly open. Just barely. I froze. Then my phone buzzed. New message from customer. "Bring it inside. Doors unlocked." I stood there staring at the message while my chest started pounding. "No thanks," I muttered. I placed the pizza near the porch and quickly snapped the delivery photo. That's when I heard something move inside the house. Not footsteps, more like something heavy dragging slowly across the floor. I backed away immediately. Then the porch light suddenly turned on. I swear I almost dropped my phone. A tall man was standing inside the doorway. I couldn't fully see his face because the hallway behind him was dark, but I remember his eyes. Wide open, almost bulging. He looked exhausted or sick. "Please," he said softly. "Can you help me carry something?" Every alarm in my body went off. I told him I had another delivery and started walking backward toward my car. The man didn't move, but then he smiled. Not normal smiling either. It stretched too long across his face like he was forcing it. "You shouldn't leave yet," he said. At that exact moment, the black pickup truck behind me turned its headlights off. Complete darkness swallowed the road. My heart dropped. I rushed toward my car, trying not to panic. Snow crunched loudly under my boots while I kept glancing back at the house. The man was gone from the doorway. Just gone. I jumped into my car and locked the doors instantly. My hand was shaking so badly, I dropped my keys between the seats. Then something slammed against my back window. I screamed. A hand. Someone had hit the glass hard enough to shake the car. I turned and saw a woman standing behind me, wearing a gray winter coat soaked in snow. She looked terrified. "Help me," she mouthed silently. Before I could react, another figure appeared behind her from the darkness and grabbed her violently by the shoulders. She disappeared out of sight screaming. The sound cut off instantly. I finally got the engine started and slammed the gas pedal. My tires spun wildly before catching traction. As I sped down the road, I looked in the rearview mirror. The pickup truck was following me now. Fast. Its headlights stayed off while it chased me through the woods. I called 911 immediately nearly yelling at the operator while trying to keep control of the car on icy roads. The dispatcher kept asking for my location, but my GPS wasn't loading. The truck got closer, then closer. I could barely make out two people inside. Suddenly the truck rammed the back of my car. Hard. My vehicle fishtailed across the road, nearly hitting a ditch. I thought I was dead. I kept driving anyway. About 5 minutes later, I finally reached the main highway. The moment other headlights appeared in the distance, the pickup truck slowed down. Then it turned around and disappeared back toward the woods. Police met me at a gas station 15 minutes later. I told them everything. The house, the woman, the truck, all of it. An officer recognized the address immediately. His face changed the second I mentioned it. Turns out the property belonged to a man named Walter Grady. He died almost 8 months earlier. Heart attack. No family. House supposedly empty ever since. Police still went out there that night. They found the pizza sitting frozen on the porch, exactly where I left it. But nobody was inside. No truck either. What they did find were fresh tire tracks and multiple footprints leading behind the house into the woods, including bare footprints. The creepiest part came later. A detective called me 2 days afterward asking if I'd recognized the woman I saw. I said probably. Then he emailed me a missing persons report. The moment I opened it, my blood ran cold. It was her. Her name was Melissa Crane. She disappeared 3 years earlier from a town only 40 miles away. Police never found her body. I quit delivery driving the same week. Even now, I still think about that night every time snow starts falling. Because deep down, I know something was living inside that house after Walter died. And whatever grabbed that woman behind my car was still there waiting in those woods. On these days, I used to do late-night deliveries for a grocery app around northern Ohio back in 2023. The money was decent after midnight because almost nobody wanted those shifts. Most orders were drunk people, college students, or parents needing medicine for sick kids. Nothing ever happened besides the occasional creepy apartment hallway or angry customer until the Pine Hollow delivery. It was around 1:40 a.m. when the order came through. The payout was unusually high, $42 for a 10-minute drive. The customer only ordered bottled water, cold medicine, bread, and batteries. The address was outside the city, near a wooded area called Pine Hollow Road. I almost declined it because the area had terrible lighting and weak signal, but rent was due that week. The customer name was L. Harper. No profile picture, no delivery notes. As I drove farther from town, the roads became narrower. No streetlights, just long stretches of trees and old mailboxes leaning toward the road like they were rotting. My GPS kept cutting out. Then my phone buzzed. A message from the customer. Please don't knock. That wasn't unusual. Plenty of people wrote that. But a second message came right after. Leave it by the red door. I remember feeling confused because I hadn't even reached the property yet. About 5 minutes later, I saw the house. It sat far back from the road behind dead trees. 2 stories tall. No lights inside except one faint glow upstairs. And there really was a red front door. I parked near the gravel driveway and grabbed the bags. The whole place felt abandoned. No cars. No sounds. Not even insects. The second I stepped out, my phone signal disappeared completely. I walked to the porch and noticed scratches all over the red paint on the door. Deep ones, like something had clawed at it repeatedly. I set the bags down quietly. Then I heard movement inside. Slow footsteps. Heavy. I assumed the customer was approaching the door, so I backed away to give him space. But the footsteps stopped directly on the other side of the door. No one opened it. I waited maybe 15 seconds. Then I heard breathing. Not normal breathing. Wet. Raspy. Almost shaky. I said, "Deliveries here," trying to sound casual. No response. Then something lightly tapped the other side of the door. 3 taps. I started walking back toward my car when my phone buzzed again. Another message from the customer. You brought someone with you. I froze. I looked around immediately. Nobody. Just trees and darkness. I typed back no. The reply came instantly. Then who is standing behind you? I swear, every hair on my arm stood up. I turned around so fast, I nearly slipped on the gravel. Nothing was there. But near the side of the house, I heard footsteps moving through leaves. Fast. I rushed to my car, locked the doors, and started the engine. That's when I noticed someone standing in the upstairs window. Tall, completely still. The face was too dark to make out, but I could see the outline clearly against the dim yellow light. I thought maybe it was the customer watching me leave. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered because I honestly wanted to know what the hell was going on. A woman whispered, "Why did you stop coming to the back door?" My stomach dropped. I said, "What?" She sounded terrified. "That thing outside isn't my father." For a second, I couldn't even process the sentence. Then movement flashed beside my driver's side window. A person. No. Something. Tall and thin, wearing dark clothes soaked with mud. Its head tilted strangely, almost unnatural. I only saw it for maybe 2 seconds before it moved out of view. I slammed the car into reverse, so hard the tires spit gravel everywhere. As I backed down the driveway, my headlights swept across the trees. And I saw it again, standing between them, watching. The arms looked way too long. I sped out onto the road and didn't stop until I reached a gas station nearly 15 minutes away. I called police immediately. 2 deputies actually went out there while I stayed at the station giving my statement. Around 40 minutes later, one of them returned. He looked pale. I asked what happened. He said the house had been empty for years. No electricity, no owner living there. Nothing. I told him I literally spoke to someone on the phone. He asked to see the number, but the call was gone from my history. So were the messages. Every single one. The order itself had disappeared too, like it never existed. I quit doing night deliveries 2 weeks later, but the worst part came after. 3 months later, I was scrolling through local news online and saw an article about Pine Hollow Road. A hunter had found human remains deep in the woods behind an abandoned property. The photo attached to the article showed the same house, same red door, and I still remember exactly what the deputy told me that night before leaving the gas station. You're lucky you never walked behind the house. Back in 2022, I worked late nights delivering takeout around Portland, Oregon. Most drivers hated the graveyard shift, but I actually liked it. Roads where empty tips were better, and I usually finished fast. At least that's how it was before the Cedar Street order. It was close to 2:15 a.m. when the request came through. Pick up from a small Mexican restaurant downtown and deliver to a neighborhood about 20 minutes away. The order itself was huge. Enough food for at least 6 people. The customer name was Jared. No last name. The delivery instructions said, basement entrance around back. Do not use front door. I remember laughing to myself because horror movies always start with instructions like that. Still, the payout was high, so I accepted it. The drive there felt normal at first, but the deeper I got into the neighborhood, the stranger things looked. Almost every house was dark, except one at the very end of the street. A pale blue house with a single porch light flickering. I parked out front and immediately noticed something weird. No other cars. If 6 people were eating there at 2 a.m., somebody should have been home. I grabbed the food and walked toward the backyard gate. The second I stepped behind the house, the atmosphere changed completely. The air smelled damp and rotten like mildew mixed with standing water. I found a basement entrance under the back porch. The door was already cracked open. That stopped me cold. I said loudly, "Delivery for Jared." No answer, just silence. Then from inside the basement, a voice calmly said, "Bring it down." I don't know why, but something about the voice felt wrong. Too flat, almost rehearsed. I stayed at the top of the stairs and said, "I can leave it here." The voice answered immediately, "No, bring it down." At that point, I should have left. I know that now. But I was tired, annoyed, and honestly embarrassed for feeling scared. So I walked down. The basement was dimly lit by one hanging bulb. Concrete walls. Old furniture covered with sheets. I could hear water dripping somewhere. Then I noticed the smell. Not mildew. Something worse. Something metallic. I placed the food on a table and looked around. That's when I saw the camera, mounted in the corner. Red light blinking. Then another one. And another. I suddenly realized there were cameras pointed all around the basement. Watching the stairs. Watching the table. Watching me. The voice behind me said, "You came alone, right?" I turned so fast I nearly fell backward. A man stood near the bottom step. Tall, bald, mid-50s maybe, but his clothes were filthy and there was something dark smeared across one sleeve. I immediately started backing away. He smiled slightly and said, "Most drivers don't come down." I forced a laugh and said, "Yeah, well, your food's here." Then I noticed something else. Near the far wall was a metal chair bolted to the floor, with duct tape hanging from the armrests. My chest tightened instantly. The man saw me looking. His smile disappeared. "You weren't supposed to see that." I bolted for the stairs. The second I reached the top, I heard him running behind me. Not walking, running hard. I slammed the basement door shut and threw my shoulder against it while pulling my keys out at the same time. The guy started pounding from the other side, so hard the entire door shook. I sprinted to my car and peeled out of there without even shutting my passenger door completely. As I turned onto the main, road headlights appeared behind me. The blue house guy was following me in a dark pickup truck. I called 911 while driving. The dispatcher told me to head toward the nearest open gas station and stay on the line. The truck stayed behind me the entire time. Not trying to pass, just following. When I finally pulled into a brightly lit station near the freeway, the truck slowed down, then drove away. Police searched the house less than an hour later, but nobody was there. The basement had been cleaned out completely. No cameras, no chair, nothing. The officers actually thought I made the story up until one detective called me 2 days later. He asked if I noticed a smell in the basement. I said yes immediately. Then he went quiet for a second before saying, "We found blood under the concrete drain." They never found the man. But about 6 months later, another delivery driver disappeared less than 10 miles from that same neighborhood. And ever since then, whenever I get food delivered late at night, I always wonder something. How many drivers walk into places they should never enter?